The year was 2197, and Earth was no longer the blue paradise the history books described. The sky shimmered with the faint glimmer of orbital shields, and entire cities were buried under glass domes to protect what remained of humanity. Lieutenant Elias Varon, a decorated soldier in the Earth Defense Corps, had spent his entire life fighting a single enemy, the Orions, an alien species that humanity believed had come to destroy their world. From the age of 14, Elias was trained to see them as monsters, emotionless, silver-skinned beings with eyes that glowed like molten mercury. He had killed dozens in battle, never once looking beyond his orders. But that changed the day his squad ambushed a retreating Orion unit near the ruins of old Paris. Amid the chaos of plasma fire and collapsing walls, Elias spotted movement. Not an armed warrior, but a wounded alien struggling to crawl toward cover. His instincts screamed to finish the job. Yet, when his scope focused, his hand hesitated. Beneath the ash and blood, the alien wasn't a soldier. She was a woman. Her armor was shattered, her face marked by pain, and her eyes weren't filled with hatred. They were afraid, pleading, human. He told himself to pull the trigger, to remember his training. Instead, Elias lowered his rifle. He looked around. His squad was gone, advancing toward the next sector. Without thinking, he approached her. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse faint. When he removed his glove to check her vitals, her skin was warm, softer than he expected. For the first time in his life, Elias saw not an enemy, but a living being. Against every order, he lifted her in his arms and carried her into the shadows of a ruined cathedral, his mind spinning. "What am I doing?" he thought. But deep down, he already knew the answer. He was breaking the first law of war. Never feel mercy for an alien. The cathedral was a ghost of the old world. Cracked marble floors, vines curling through broken stained glass, and a hollow silence that made every heartbeat echo. Elias laid the alien woman on a makeshift cot made from torn banners. Her breathing was uneven, a faint shimmer pulsed beneath her skin, like liquid light trying to heal the wounds that refused to close. He tore a strip from his uniform and wrapped it gently around her arm. Every motion felt surreal. He had patched up human soldiers before, but never someone the Academy had taught him to despise. As the night deepened, the orbital shields above flickered with electric storms. The alien stirred, whispering words in a language Elias didn't know. But when her eyes opened, glowing softly like silver moons, something inside him fractured. Fear should have gripped him, but instead he felt calm. "Don't move," he said quietly. "You're safe. At least for now." Her lips parted and a whisper escaped. "Safe, human?" Her accent was strange, melodic, each syllable uncertain, like she was tasting the word for the first time. Elias froze. He hadn't expected her to understand him, let alone speak his language. "My name's Elias," he said after a pause. "Lieutenant Elias Varon." She blinked, confusion softening into faint recognition. "Elias," she repeated, almost like a prayer. Then she touched her chest weakly. Lyra. That single name struck him harder than any bullet ever. Could Lyra, the alien, had a name, a voice, a presence that felt heartbreakingly alive. For the first time, he saw the truth buried beneath years of propaganda. She wasn't just some creature from the stars. She was someone's daughter, someone's soldier, maybe even someone's hope. When she winced in pain, Elias reached for her hand without thinking. It was warm, trembling, and real. "You shouldn't have saved me," she murmured. "Your kind will kill you for it." He gave a bitter smile. "Maybe, but I couldn't just watch you die." Outside, thunder rumbled across the shattered skyline, and for a brief moment, the stormlight painted them both in the same shade of blue, human and alien. No longer enemies, just two souls hiding from a war neither of them had started. In that silence, Elias realized something terrifying and beautiful. He no longer wanted to kill her. He wanted to understand her. By the second night, the rain hadn't stopped. It fell through the cathedral's broken ceiling like silver threads, pooling at their feet. Elias had lit a small fire using debris from the pews, its glow dancing over Lyra's face. She was recovering faster than he expected, the strange light beneath her skin, knitting flesh and bone in patterns that seemed both alien and divine. She watched him with cautious curiosity, her eyes reflecting the flames like liquid glass. They spoke little at first. Words were clumsy bridges between two worlds at war. But through gestures, through the slow rhythm of patience, understanding began to grow. Elias pointed to himself. Human. Then to her, Orion. Lyra shook her head softly. Not Orion, she said, touching her heart. Not what you call us. Her voice trembled as she looked away. We were made by your people. Experiment. Gone wrong. The words hit him like a rifle shot. That's not possible, he whispered, but her expression told him it was true. Humanity had always claimed the Orions invaded without warning, slaughtering millions. But Lyra's trembling voice painted a different picture. One of betrayal. The Orions were not invaders, but creations, born in human laboratories, bred for colonization missions, and then discarded when they demanded freedom. The war, Elias realized, had never been about defense. It was about control. He sat in silence, his training unraveling in his mind. Every kill, every order, every medal, all built on a lie. Lyra touched his hand lightly, her fingers glowing faintly where they met his skin. You didn't know, she said gently. None of you do. Something broke inside him, not in pain, but in awakening. He looked at her, at the scars on her arms, at the strength it took for her to keep breathing. If what you're saying is true, he murmured, then I've been fighting my own mistakes. Lyra smiled faintly. Then stop fighting. The fire crackled between them, and in its warmth, the distance between human and alien began to fade. She leaned closer, her voice a whisper that felt like a confession and a promise. Maybe peace starts with two hearts brave, enough to see each other. Elias couldn't answer. He just reached out and let his hand rest over hers. For the first time, he wasn't a soldier or a killer. He was just a man, and she was the reason he wanted to be human again. The following morning, the distant roar of patrol drones shattered their fragile peace. Searchlights sliced through the mist as human soldiers scoured the ruins. Elias knew what that meant. His squad had reported missing enemy survivors, and command wanted the area swept clean. Panic flashed in Lyra's eyes, but Elias pressed a finger to his lips. Stay quiet. Don't move, he whispered, scanning the broken arches for an escape route. He should have turned her in. That was what a loyal officer would do. Instead, his heart pounded with a single instinct: protect her. He led Lyra through the cathedral's underground tunnels, their footsteps echoing against damp stone. Every breath they shared was a gamble with death. Yet even as the sound of marching boots grew louder above them, Elias felt something he hadn't in years: purpose. Not the hollow kind given by medals and missions, but something real, fragile and terrifying. They emerged into the Undercity, where humanity's ruins met the forgotten. Neon lights flickered among rusted machines, and acid rain hissed against metal rooftops. Here, in the labyrinth of shadows, Elias found an abandoned shelter. He sealed the door behind them, his pulse racing. Lyra collapsed onto a rusted bench, her luminous skin dimming from exhaustion. You risked everything, she murmured. For me. Elias crouched before her, brushing away a strand of silver-white hair that had fallen over her face. Maybe I'm tired of risking everything for lies. She looked at him, tears forming in eyes that shimmered like starlight. Elias, you don't belong in their war anymore. He wanted to deny it, but when she placed her hand against his chest, feeling the thunder of his heartbeat, the truth spoke louder than any order ever could. You gave me my life, she whispered. Let me give you yours back. Something shifted in that dim shelter, a stillness before a confession. Elias leaned closer, his breath mingling with hers, and for the briefest moment the world outside vanished. No soldiers, no orders, no species, just two beings who had found humanity in each other. When their lips met, it wasn't the beginning of rebellion, it was the beginning of forgiveness. Outside, the drones continued their search, but Elias no longer cared. In Lyra's arms, he had found the one truth the war could never erase. That love, even between enemies, was the most dangerous kind of freedom. By dawn, the sky burned red, not from sunrise, but from fire. Human forces had found the Undercity. Explosions thundered above as soldiers flooded the tunnels, shouting commands that echoed through metal corridors. Elias gripped his rifle, his body trembling between two worlds. the uniform that branded him a hero and the heart that now made him a traitor. Lyra stood beside him, her silver hair catching the dim light, her eyes full of quiet resolve. "You can still leave," she said softly. "If they find me, tell them I took you hostage." He almost laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "And live knowing I let them destroy the only good thing I've ever done?" He shook his head. "No, Lyra, I won't run." They moved together through the collapsing tunnels until a blast separated them. The ceiling caved in, dust and fire filling the air. Through the haze, Elias saw human soldiers on the other side, his squad, led by Captain Wren. "Lieutenant Varen!" Wren's voice was sharp, accusing. "Step away from the alien!" Lyra stumbled forward, whispering, "Don't fight them." But Elias raised his rifle, not to kill, but to protect. "She's not our enemy," he shouted. "Everything they told us about the Orions is a lie." The soldiers hesitated, their training colliding with doubt. Wren's face hardened. "You've lost your mind, Lieutenant?" "Stand down!" Elias turned to Lyra, his eyes soft despite the chaos. "If I fall, promise me you'll live. Find the others. Tell them humans aren't all monsters." She reached up, cupping his face with trembling hands. "And if you die," she whispered, "remember that I loved you, even when you were taught not to." The next moments unfolded in blinding light. Gunfire erupted. Elias pushed Lyra behind a pillar, returning fire only to wound, not kill. A plasma round struck his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. Pain flared, but all he saw was Lyra running toward him, tears streaking her luminous skin. She pressed her hand against his wound, her energy flowing into him like warmth, like hope. "Stay with me," she cried. Outside, the bombardment ceased. The soldiers retreated as orbital sirens blared. Command had called off the purge. Through the settling smoke, Lyra cradled Elias's head in her lap. He smiled weakly, whispering, "Maybe peace really does start with two hearts." And as the dawn finally broke through the ruins of Earth, a human and an alien lay together. Proof that even in a broken world built on hate, love could still rewrite the stars.